I'm recording. I'm sorry about it. I just forgot to do it at the beginning of the class. Thank you for letting me know. And yeah, so that's what we are going to do. As I said, just review each unit, complete exercises, short exercises about them, so you can actually check your understanding. That's it. And please, oh please, let me repeat this. If you have any question, ask me, please. That's what I'm here for. If you're too shy to open your mic and ask it on the chat, but don't keep your doubt to yourself, please. So yeah, I think we're ready to go. The first thing that we studied in Unit 1 was get to express change. This sounds a little tricky when you see it on the on this title, get to express change, but it's not tricky. It's just using the verb get plus an adjective or plus a participle to express a change of state. That's the idea. All right. So I told you when we were studying this that you shouldn't get too confused. Oh, this is not possible. Let me mark it again. This is what I marked. I told you not to get too confused between the adjective or the participle because, yeah, they are kind of similar sometimes. So don't get too freaked out by finding out when you need to use the participle or what is a participle. It doesn't really matter that much. What it is important is that you learn to use the verb get plus something else, which could be an adjective or a participle, to express change of state. That's what matters here. Alrighty, so I also told you that we use get in English when we want to talk about words in Spanish, like aburrirse, for example. Let me aburrirse, casarse, and those kind of things, okay? So all the verbs that in Spanish, or most of the verbs that in Spanish end with se, they are called reflexive verbs. All of those in English, we are going to express them with get. For example, aburrirse in English would be get bored. Casarse would be get married, and so on and so far. Yeah? So that's actually it. It's not more complicated than that. You need to remember that you need to use get plus something else to express the change of state. All right? So I can say I am bored, which means that in this very moment I'm bored. But also I can say that I get bored when people talk too much. All right? That's a change of state. That's it. All right, don't get too worried about this. It's really not complicated. If you have been practicing, also you should be acquainted with the structure. And here we have some common words that you can use with this structure. So you can say get cold, get dark, get dirty, get hot, get nervous, get thirsty, get wet. Alrighty, change of state. And also you have a list of participles which refer to the same thing. They don't change in meaning. Get caught, get confused, get excited, get hurt, get lost, get scared, and get worried. With those phrases, you can make sentences. For example, I get cold whenever I go to La Paz. My kitchen gets dirty whenever I cook too many things. Oh, I get nervous when I have to take an exam. I get confused when I don't understand what Valeria says. I get lost when I visit new places. I get worried when my mom doesn't call me, for example. Yeah, so it's not so complicated as you may think of it. And the only thing that you need to have in hand is that is those words that you need to be using with this structure. All right, so you need the verb get on the one side, and on the other hand, you need adjectives or participles to complete the idea. When you have those two ingredients, you have it all. Yeah. Remember also that you can use these phrases in the present or in the past. So all the examples that I gave you are in the present. I get cold when I go to La Paz. But if I want to talk about the past, I have to use the verb get in the past. I got cold when I went to La Paz. My kitchen got dirty when I cooked. All right, so what changes is the verb get. Get in the present, got in the past. Apart from that, that's it. You're all settled. Now let me know if you have any questions or anything I can help you with regarding get to express change. Do we have any questions? Okay, so I'm guessing that we are ready to go. And let me clear everything here because it's a little messy. And let's go to phrases where we have to practice. And here we have some instructions that we have to take into account before completing the exercise. So we have to combine the two sentences. We have two separate sentences and we have to make them into one. How are we going to do that? Sorry, using got and using the conjunction in parentheses. What is the conjunction in parentheses? This one, after, when, etc. All right, so using got and the conjunction, we have to make only one sentence after, apart from one. All right, so we have the nurses worked all night. That's the example. The nurses worked all night. Second sentence, sorry. Now they're tired. The nurses worked all night. Now they're tired. Two separate sentences. Let's make it into one. We have got, the nurses got tired. And we're using the word after. The nurses got tired after they worked all night. All right, so this is just for you to practice in longer sentences and see if you can actually build this kind of sentences. Now let's try with the second one. We have the hikers walked for an hour. Now they're thirsty. So how can we make that into one sentence only? We have to follow the example. We have the example there. All right, that's it. Don't forget got and the conjunction. So let me see. We have Magali and then Edmundo with number 3. Magali?
Sorry.
No worries.
The hikers get thirsty.
Get or got?
Got thirsty after a walk for an hour.
Yeah, after they walked.
After they walk for an hour.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. For an hour. Yeah, that's it. All right, so again, not so complicated. We're just using the verb in the past. Why are we practicing with the verb in the past? Because usually it happens that my students think that they have to use get for all tenses, past, present, and future. It's not like that. If you're talking about the past, you have to use get in the past. So they got thirsty in the past after they walked for an hour. Yep, that's it. Thank you very much, Magali. Now let's try with Edmundo was the other person that raised their hand. Edmundo, are you there?
Before,
Yes.
what question? The
Yes.
second one, so sorry, Edmundo, the second one could be the hikers got thirsty after walking for an hour?
Yes. Yeah, perfectly correct. After walking. Yeah. Let me just tell you why, so you don't get the doubt. After, you can always use the ing form. This is a rule for after and before. So after walking or before walking. It's a rule that you can use ing form after those two prepositions. So yeah, it's possible.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, Edmundo, let's go. Number 3.
Okay. We got excited when we heard about your promotion.
Very good. All right, thank you very much. We got excited after we heard about your promotion. Oops. Alrighty, so
Sorry, is with when? When is in parentheses.
oh yes, sorry. It's stuck in my head. Thank you very much for correcting me. Yeah. So we got excited. Oh, sorry?
I have a question, Valeria.
Yeah, tell me, Ludmila.
My question is it correct in three case, we get excited now because we heard about your promotion?
It is
I
possible.
will repeat, we get excited now because we heard about your promotion. Is it correct or not?
It is. It is correct. You are just changing the tense. It is perfectly possible. So yeah.
So for second sentence is it is the same case.
Yep.
I can say the hikers get thirsty now, after, or because. What is better? What word is better in this sentence? May I say the hikers get thirsty because they walked for an hour, or the hikers get thirsty because they walked for an hour. Is it possible to use both words after, because, and two tense, or only past simple? How is correct, Valeria?
Yeah.
But
Good question.
Ludmila, you forgot the order is use after, and your key for use get or got is the after.
No, because right now they are thirsty, so
Okay,
I
sorry.
can say the hikers get thirsty now because they walked for an hour. Is it possible or not? Thank you.
Yeah, not quite. Well, the part of your question where you mentioned, can I use because or whatever else? Yes, it is possible. You can change after. It's not a problem. Well, regarding the verb tenses, it's not possible to say that they get thirsty now because they walked in the past. It's not possible because logically it doesn't make sense. If they walked in the past, what is logical is that they got thirsty in the past. Alrighty, so it is better to have the same verb tense in both sentences. They got thirsty because they walked. If you want to change it into the present simple, the hikers get thirsty after they walk. So walk also needs to be in the present tense. Also, it changes the meaning. So this is about the past. The action started in the past and finished in the past. It's over. But this one, it's more related to a habit. So every time they walk, every time they get thirsty. So this happens repeatedly. So there's also a change in meaning. I recommend that you keep both verbs in the same verb tense. Now that I think
Valeria.
about it, yeah.
Valeria, so I have another question because we read number 2. First sentence is in past simple because second sentence is the present simple. So I understand that second sentence is about present tense. So naturally, I choose say the hikers get thirsty. Valeria, please, how is correct to choose tense in that case?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So it depends on what you want to say. As I said, if you want to talk about a habit, something that happens all the time, then you have to choose the present simple. But if you want to talk about something that happened in the past, maybe it happened yesterday, you have to go for the past simple. Yeah, so that is the key to choose the tense. Now, if you're thinking about something that is happening now, you have to use the present continuous. They are getting thirsty right now because they are walking right now. But that's another story.
Okay.
Yeah. That's another story, and that is related to verb tenses. So it always depends on what you want to say, what you mean with your sentence. That's the idea. And in the second example, the third example actually, it's the same. You have to choose both both verbs in the past or both verbs in the present. They have to correspond. Otherwise, logically, it doesn't make sense. That's it.
Thank you, Valeria.
Yep, no problem. Thank you, Ludmila. This is a good question because in the exam, you are going to get different tenses, as always. All right, so it is a good thing that Ludmila is thinking about the tenses because in the exam, you are going to have to be able to choose the correct verb tense. All right, so good thing. All right, and pretty much,
Valeria,
yeah, tell me.
in the third sentence, it's the same. Now we're excited, but we heard in the past about your promotion. That is the rule for the change is with got or not get. It's right?
Nope, not quite.
What is the reason? Because we got excited when we heard about your promotion. Because the sentence says we heard about your promotion. Now we're excited.
No, we got excited in the past when we heard about your promotion in the past. Got is in the past and heard is in the past. Yeah.
It's because the verb, the first sentence is heard in the past.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the
thing. So yeah, you cannot be excited now about something that you heard in the past. It's weird. It's not common. So I wouldn't recommend that you use one verb in the present and the other one in the past. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, if you want to talk about something, again, that it is a habit, then you have to use the present. It is also weird that you talk about this one, the third one in the present simple, because it doesn't happen too often that you get a promotion. So it's not often that we're going to be excited about it. So it's not going to be a habit, really.
Another question: if we want use the present, the first sentence is need to be in present or use just. We're just here about your promotion. We're excited. Yes, that's the also.
Yep. It is. Yeah, we've just heard about your promotion, so we're excited. Yep. Yeah, but then you're changing the structure because then you're not using get. So that's also another story. But yeah, the rule is keep your verb tenses the same. If you're talking about the past, all verbs need to be in the past. If you're talking about the present, all verbs need to be in the present. That way you're going to make sense. That's the main rule.
Present continuous, Valeria, you said something about present continuous when we say we getting excited, and so what time we use and we hearing about your promotion?
Yeah.
When, how is correct or it is wrong completely?
Yeah, this one cannot be in the present continuous because it's very weird that while you are hearing about someone's promotion, you are also having the time to mention that you are getting excited. So no, in this specific example, don't use the present continuous because it doesn't make sense.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. All right. Any other question, comment, complaint that you may have? Alrighty, let me tell you why we are completing this kind of exercises and not just choosing, I don't know, from as a simpler exercise. Because at this level, you have to be able to make long sentences and also to ask yourself, what am I doing? Why am I choosing this verb tense and not other, and etc., etc. So that's why we are trying to complete this very short structure, which is just get plus something, in longer sentences in more complicated examples. And yeah, so as I told you, that's pretty much it. You have to use get plus an adjective or plus a participle to express the change in state. What is the change of state here? That before this happened, you weren't tired, and after this happened, you got tired. What is the change in state here? That before walking, you weren't thirsty, but after walking, you got thirsty. What is the change of state in the last one? Is that before hearing about your promotion, we weren't excited, and after hearing about your promotion, we got excited. So there was a change in how we felt about things. That's the idea. All right, so any other extra question before we move on? Okay, so let's move on. And this was the first topic that we covered in our class. I'm going to upload this presentation so you can check extra exercises about it from 4 to 8 if you want to practice for the exam. It's going to be there. I'm going to add the answer key after the class. And now let's move on. The second topic that we covered in Unit 1 was so and such. And this was a little bit more complicated, I guess, because some of you cannot differentiate between an adjective and between a noun. So for that matter, you need to learn to differentiate what is an adjective and what is a noun. An adjective is something that is a word that describes characteristics, right? So when you make descriptions, for example, you use adjectives. Let me give you an example. She is tall, she is short, she's thin, she's chubby, etc. All those words that I said are adjectives. They describe characteristics. That's the deal. So you can use so, or therefore you can use so when you are trying to add emphasis. This is the key word, emphasis, to the adjective that you're using. The lion is so fierce, right? So he's not just fierce, he is so fierce. I'm adding emphasis to how fierce he is. Then we have the second example. He looks so calm. I'm not just saying that he looks calm. I'm saying that he looks so calm. I'm making an emphasis on how calm he looks. All right, so that's the deal. It's also no more complicated than that. You're making an emphasis on the adjective that you are trying to use for descriptions. So this adjective describes the lion. This adjective describes a person. Who? We don't know. All right, so that's an adjective, a characteristic that describes a person, a situation, an animal, a city, a place, etc. Characteristic. On the other hand, let me use another color for the other concept. Maybe not that one. All right, so for nouns, we have another kind of category. Nouns are not characteristics. Nouns are things, people, places, everything that is around us that we can name. So a noun is Bolivia, a noun is my computer, a noun is Lyudmila. All of those are nouns, okay? And here you are talking about phrases. Have a look at the difference. In the first one, you are talking about one word, one adjective. But here you are talking about a phrase that contains an adjective. Now, a noun. Now have a look at what I did. I highlighted or I marked the word dangerous. Is dangerous a noun?
No, it's an adjective.
It's an adjective. Why? Because it's a characteristic. All right, so there you go. You have to learn how to identify nouns and adjectives. Animals is a noun. Sorry?
No, it's a noun because it's using one characteristic of one animal, but it's general for all the animals in that group.
There
Okay,
you go.
construct.
Yep.
Okay.
There you go. So the animal is the common thing that we know. It's not just one characteristic about anyone or anything. Yeah. So animal there is the noun. In the second example, we have a good time. So good would be the adjective, which is the characteristic, and time is the noun. All right, so that's the idea. And when you are using such, you have to make sure that you are working with a phrase that contains a noun. And you are also emphasizing the whole phrase. For example, hippos are such dangerous animals. Hippos are such dangerous animals. I'm emphasizing the whole phrase. Not just dangerous, not just animals. Dangerous animals. We had such a good time. Again, I'm working with the whole phrase. Not only time, not only good, the whole thing. Good time. We had such a good time. Another characteristic of these phrases is that you cannot separate them because separated, they don't make sense. I couldn't say hippos are such dangerous. It doesn't mean anything. Hippos are such animals. Doesn't mean anything. Hippos are such dangerous animals. Now I understand. You are emphasizing the idea that they are dangerous animals. The same with the second example. I cannot just say, we had such a good. Doesn't mean anything. It sounds incomplete. We had such time. Again, doesn't make sense. When I say, we had such a good time, oh, I understand you're emphasizing the idea that we had a good time. That's it. All right, so be careful with these two, just in the sense that so goes with adjectives only, and such go with nouns and adjectives together. Yeah, they cannot be separated. That's the idea. Questions about this? We have one in the chat. Is it incorrect to use so with noun phrase in an informal conversation? So the lion is so dangerous animals. No, it is it is actually incorrect, Fernando, because it doesn't make sense. Even if it's formal or informal, it doesn't matter. The rule is this for formal and informal conversations. So for adjective, such for adjective plus noun. That's the rule. All right, so I think that now if you don't have extra questions, we can go and practice. See if this works. Now pay attention, the difference between an adjective and a noun phrase. That's the thing. And here I have many sentences, but we are only going to complete the first 4 sentences. All right, so what do we have to do? Let me read the instructions. We have to complete each statement with so, such, or such a, depending on what we are talking about. We have the first one. It says, it was beautiful
Such
day.
a beautiful day.
Yeah, we have the first answer. It was such a beautiful day. Why do you think it's such a, Magali?
Because it's one day. And
Yeah,
a is the preposition for say un día. It
Yeah.
was such a beautiful day. It's not
Correct.
days.
Okay, also because these 2 words go together. This is a noun phrase. You cannot say we have such beautiful or we had so beautiful. It doesn't make sense. Such a beautiful day. We are talking about the day here. What it is important in this sentence is the day. Alrighty, so that's why we have to use such a. We have a noun phrase that is not separable. Let's have a look at number 2. And we have, they got blank,
So sick.
so sick. There you go. Thank you very much, Guillermo. They got so sick. Why? Because, let me mark it again. We have
You have an adjective. Sick.
an adjective. There you go. Thank you very much, Guillermo. And that's it. You have an adjective. And that adjective is not linked to a noun, as in the previous sentence. So they got so sick, and that makes sense. If I say they got so sick, you already understand what I mean. There are people who got very sick. That's it. You have the whole idea. Whereas when I use such, if I break it, if I say it was such a beautiful, it sounds incomplete. You don't know what I'm talking about, right? So that is one tip for you to realize when to use such a or such, when to use so. Number 3, it was blank.
Such a,
Touch.
such a,
Let's go.
because it's a good book.
There you go.
Right.
Such a good book. Why? Again, because we're talking about one book. So it was such a good book. And also because they are not separable. You cannot take them in different sentences. So if I say, it was so good book, doesn't make sense. It was so good, doesn't make sense. It was such a good book. Then you have a phrase. And finally, number 4, the dinner was blank,
So,
bad. There
so
we go.
bad.
So bad. Why? Again, because we only have one adjective. The dinner was so bad. If I say the dinner was so bad, you completely understand what I mean. I'm talking about a dinner that wasn't good. There you go. So that is the tip to realize when to use which one. And let me just go with number 5 so I can explain the difference between such and such a. There was
Touch.
Such terrible news.
such. There you go. So in this case, we need to use such. Why? Because we are talking about news, which is plural.
Plural.
There you go. So in the first one, we have only one beautiful day. We're talking about one beautiful day. On the third one, we're talking about only one good book. But number 5 is talking about news in general, right? Plural. So such terrible news. And of course, they go together. They cannot be separated. Alrighty, questions about this?
Can you explain the 6?
Number 6?
Because the number 6, because it's a bad suggestion.
Oh, that's. Then we have bad suggestions. Suggestions, sorry. Do we have any guesses? Is it such a?
Such a bad suggestion.
Such a.
Yeah.
But,
Such a bad suggestion. Okay. Why? Because we have one suggestion, right? That would be the clearest explanation. It could also possible be that such bad suggestion. Some native speakers would use it because suggestion is not something that we can truly count. Yeah, but I would go for that such a bad suggestion. It's singular. And again, we have a phrase here. Let me mark it. So a phrase that says an idea, bad suggestion. So I would go with such a again. All right, questions, comments here? Okay, so if we have no comments, questions, I think we're ready to move on. Remember, identify, are we talking about only one adjective or are we talking about a phrase, 2 words or more that have meaning together? That's the key here. Once you know that, you're ready to go. Now let's move on to lesson 3, where we talked about though, although, and even though. You may be wondering, when did we talk about that? Well, we had an asynchronous class and we talked about this for a little bit. This is also not so complicated. I think this unit is quite easy if you understand the core of the grammar that we're covering. And we have 3 connectors, which are though, although, and even though. And they are used to show contrast. That's the idea. All right, so here you are contrasting 2 ideas. The first one to the second one, and of course, that's how it should be. And it also says here that the main idea, sorry, the main clause shows an unexpected result, right? So in the main clause, you're going to have an unexpected result. What does though, although, and even though mean? Can anybody help me here?
Aunque.
Okay. All of them mean aunque?
Yes.
sin embargo,
Sin embargo.
Yeah. Okay. I would say that they mean the same, really. Of course, in Spanish, we have many different synonyms that can help us, but I would say that, yeah, they mean the same. What we have here are different degrees of contrast. I explained this on the video that I recorded. You have different degrees of contrast. And also different degrees of formality. So the least formal is though. I can use formal anywhere, everywhere, with everyone. Yeah, it always makes sense. It's good for every context. Even though it's not so used in colloquial conversations, I would say. You could use it, of course, but it sounds a little bit more formal. And although it's there in the middle, all right? So if you use it in a conversation, you don't use it too much because it sounds a little bit formal, but it's versatile. You can use it in many contexts, depending your topic also, your conversation. And also degrees on contrast, when you say even though, you are making a little bit more emphasis on the contrast, right? And though works for every type of contrast. That would be the difference between them. And yeah, they usually mean aunque. I say usually because you are going to find times where they can be translated into something else. Let's read the examples. Though hunting laws are great, they aren't enough to protect animals. All right, so we have one idea, they are great. On the other hand, we have a contrast. They are not enough. All right, so I'm making a contrast. We have great laws, they're not enough. That's the thing that we're doing. Contrast again. What else do we have on the second example? Although a butterfly is a tiny insect, so maybe this is what we want to talk about, it can fly thousands of miles. All right, so a tiny thing can go very far. That's the contrast that I'm doing. All right, it can fly thousands of miles. Last example, what is the contrast? We have, even though it can be expensive, so this is the idea, something is expensive, protecting wildlife is important. All right, so we are contrasting the idea of something being expensive to being important. It is expensive, but it is also important. All right, so we are making the contrast again between those two ideas. And on the second part of the grammar box here, we have just something related to grammar and punctuation. Have a look at the comma here. So also in the first cases, you have to write a comma. All right, so it doesn't matter if you start by though, if although or even though, or if you start by the main clause, you need a comma to separate those ideas and to make sure that there is a contrast. All right, so the comma is necessary, except in even though. All right, so that would be the exception. I have seen sentences with a comma anyway, so it's not a big problem if you add a comma. It is a big problem if you don't add the comma. So the comma is necessary. And you can start by the main clause. Most spiders live for about a year, though some live much longer. All right, so we are making a contrast between most spiders, and some spiders. That's the contrast. Hippos can't swim, although they spend most of the day in water. So we are making a contrast between the idea they can't swim, but they are always in the water. It's weird. That's the contrast. And species will continue to disappear even though we try to save them. We are making the contrast between the species disappearing and us trying to save them. That's it, all right? So this is only used to make contrast between those two ideas that express different aspects of one element, one thing, one person, etc. Yeah, now your chance to ask questions if you have one. All right, we have, oh, yeah, tell me, Marcelo.
Can we say most spiders lives for about a year?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question, Marcelo. And the answer is no, don't you dare, don't do it. Because we are talking about spiders. And remember that we use the S at the end of the verb, lives, with he, she, and it. And most spiders is they, because it's plural. We are talking about many spiders, not only one. If it's only one spider, this spider lives. Yeah, this kind of spider lives for 1,000 years, all right? But if you're talking about generalization, nope, it is impossible.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, and we have a question on the chat, and it says that sometimes we use though at the end of the sentence, and that's true. And how does it work? This is just to give you a random detail that's something that is broadly used in English. Most people use though at the end. She passed the exam. She didn't study though, right? So the question on the chat is asking me, why do people use though at the end? And that is very common, I'm telling you. Every native speaker that you are going to talk to is going to say something like this. Though at the end. Though at the end, it's just the same as saying but. All right? I could tell you the same idea with but. Let me try. She passed the exam, but she didn't study. That's what I mean. That's the idea. And yeah, you can use it at the end most of the times. To contrast again two ideas and to stop saying but, this is a very good option. We have a text on Thursday. I haven't prepared it though. All right, so I'm just making a contrast. Oh, that's happening, but I haven't prepared that. Right, so it works with anything. You look happy. You received bad news though. Right? So it works for every context, and it can perfectly go at the end. And most people use it at the end. Yeah, does this help? Or is it more confusing? Yeah, all right. Okay, any other comment, question before we practice? Almost the same case with the word instead. Almost the same case with the word instead. Not quite. They are not similar. Nope.
Instead, it's not mean en lugar de.
En lugar de. Yep. Yep. So it's not similar because though here means but. I mean in the form. Oh yeah. I tried to talk to my boss. I called my friend instead. Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean now. Okay, so I'm gonna write it so people can understand what we're talking about. I tried to call my boss. I'm sorry. I called my friend instead. Yep. So instead goes at the end. They don't mean the same. So the rest of the class, please don't think that they are similar. They are not similar in meaning. They are similar only in structure. So yeah, instead goes at the end. Yep. But instead means en vez de. Okay. Now let's practice. I guess we're ready to practice. This is, again, not so complicated. It's just a matter of remembering where do I have to put the word and which word was it? Oh, yeah, though, although, or even though. In my exam, since they are very similar, whatever you choose may be correct, all right? So don't worry too much about that. I'm gonna give you examples for all of them because I'm telling you, they are very similar, right? So we are not going to break our minds thinking which could be the degree of contrast. No, it's not necessary. The idea here is that you can have 3 synonyms and use them in different contexts, all right? That's the idea. Now let's practice. So we have, let me read the instructions first so you can get acquainted with the instructions. Complete the sentences and you have to circle the correct letter of the correct answer. So we have A and B only. And we have the first sentence. Although my car is fuel efficient, we have A I pay over $100 a month on gas, or gas isn't very expensive. What could be the
A.
contrast?
A,
A? Why do you think A is the contrast, Magali?
because it's not a contrast if the gas isn't very expensive, if your car is fuel efficient. The contrast is que you pay more money until or even your car is full efficient.
There you go. Very good. Thank you very much. So yeah, I have a fuel efficient car, but even though I have a fuel efficient car, I pay a lot of money. That's the idea. All right. So yeah. And yeah, there is no contrast if you say gas isn't very expensive, because it doesn't make sense. That's the idea. Whenever you're completing exercises like this, you have to think what makes sense and what doesn't. That's the idea. Number 2, we have, even though everyone I know voted for Greg Bridges, he won or he didn't win.
B, he didn't win.
Yeah, there you go. And yeah, why? What is the contrast? Everyone voted for this guy, but still he didn't win. So sad.
Because it's only everyone that he know.
Yeah, but that is the contrast. Well, maybe this person knows a lot of people. We don't know. But yeah, that is the contrast. A lot of people voted for someone, but he didn't win. That is the contrast. Finally, even though the grass in my front yard is brown and dry, I'm going to water it, or I'm not going to water it.
I'm going to water it.
Is it A?
B,
I'm
I'm
not.
not going
B,
to
I'm
water
not going.
B.
There you go. Yes. The
Okay.
grass.
I don't care about my.
Yes, so sad. Oh my gosh. This is a sad example. Yeah, it's brown and dry. Yeah, sometimes I do that with my plants. If I'm very tired, I say like, I'll water them tomorrow. So yeah, I can understand this person now. So your grass is brown and dry and you say, I'm not going to water. All right, so that is the contrast. Something needing water and you decided, I'm not going to give it water. All right, so contrast. Okay, I think this, oh yeah, tell me.
There is a word, water, that it shows like a verb. It is a verb.
It is a verb, yes.
Because I always use that word like a noun.
It is a verb. So as a noun is I drink water.
Yes.
I
Yes.
water my plants. It's a verb.
Oh, me.
Depend the context,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
I learned a new
use
verb.
a few
Ah,
words.
a victory, a little victory.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, Mari. So yeah, water, it's a verb and it usually means regar. Regar las plantas. I water my plants. Yeah, good thing. All right, comments, questions, anything? All right. Yeah, I think this one is easier because yeah, you're just making the contrast between two ideas, not so complicated. Again, I'm going to give you extra sentences that you can work with when you are studying or preparing the exam. Hopefully you will have the time. But yeah, something that you can practice with. I'm also going to share the answer key, so don't worry. I'm conscious about that. And yeah, that's though, although, and even though. Important things you need to remember is that you have to have two ideas. First thing, all right? It doesn't work if you don't have two ideas. Those two ideas need to be linked in some way, but they have to be contrary. That's how you can make a contrast, right? If they are similar, there is no contrast. And they have to have some kind of link because you cannot contrast something, for example, contrast my phone with the president. Doesn't make sense. Why would I do that, right? So they have to be connected somehow. And that is it. Then we have though, although, and even though being synonyms, more or less. Though is the most informal one, even though is the most formal one, although is in the middle. Even though gives the strongest contrast, if you wish, and though gives just a contrast. Yeah, that would be the difference, but they are synonyms. So don't worry too much about these words. Think about it, as I told you earlier, you have 3 synonyms, 3 options for the times where you want to make a contrast. That's the deal. And yeah, that's though, although, and even though. And we move on. Yes, we can. Oops, sorry. What am I doing? Yeah, now we have what I think, this is my opinion, maybe it's not yours. We have the most difficult thing that we've studied so far, which is reported speech. Why is it difficult? Just because you have to remember the verb tenses. Yep. Apart from that, it's not difficult. You just listen to somebody else and then you report what they said. So it's not so difficult in that sense, but it's very difficult in the sense that you need to remember when you have to make the change on the verb tenses. And yeah, for this matter, I really need you to have this. I don't want you to learn it from memory right now. It's not going to happen. And it doesn't happen so fast because this is a process. All right. So I want you to have your notes, to have somewhere where you study, an image in your phone, something that helps you study this. All right. So if I have a sentence in the present and I want to report it, I need to use the past. Okay, if I have a sentence in the past and I want to report it, I have to use the past perfect, etc. All right, so this requires practice. You need to practice. You need to keep remembering these kind of rules at least every day, at least, because otherwise they get confusing. But yeah, for the exam, of course, you can have a look at your notes and try to remember this. It's not a big deal. What is reported speech used for? Is used to talk about what somebody else said. All right, so you are not quoting, as I told you. Oops, I lost it. You're not making a quote, which is direct speech. I'm trying to rephrase what other person said, what another person said. It's not a quote. So you shouldn't use quotation marks. Forget about that. It's just rephrasing what other person said. If someone says something in the present, I have to report it in the past. Oops, I'm not able to move my mouse, sorry. Okay, so you have to report it in the past. I want to be a lawyer. She said she wanted to be a lawyer. If someone says something in the past, I quit my job yesterday, you have to report it in the past perfect. She said she had quit her job. If someone says something in the present continuous, you have to report it in the past continuous, was. So what changes here is the verb to be. I'm applying to law school. She said she's applying to law school. She said she was applying to law school. All right, so what changes is the verb to be. I'm applying. She said she was applying. That's the deal. Then, if you have a sentence in the present perfect, I've worked here for 3 years, you have to report it in the past perfect. She said she had worked here for 3 years. If you have a sentence with will in the future simple, I'll help you with the project tomorrow, you have to report it with would. She said she would help me with the project the next day. Finally, if you have a sentence using can, you have to report it with couldn't. So I can't finish my work. You have to report it like this. She said she couldn't finish her work. That's the deal. All right, so this takes practice, I know, it's a process. But yeah, there is a movement in verb tenses, if you wish, every time you want to rephrase what another person said. This is the rule, of course. I told you this, and we have to learn the rule before we can start breaking it, all right? So that's why we are making a lot of emphasis on this. The more you practice, the easier it gets. Questions about this? Righty. So let me clear my my board and we can move on to the exercises. And let's read the instructions. Read the sentences. Where does each person work? Write A on an airplane or H at a hotel. Then change the direct speech to the reported speech, right? So here we have to write A or H, depending on the place they work. But what is important here is that we are going to change this phrase with quotation marks into a direct phrase. So we have, Lisa said that, and the phrase is, you have to turn off all electronic devices. How can we report that?
A.
Sorry?
Lisa said to the passengers, you have turned off all electronic devices. This is on an airplane. When you fly on an airplane,
All right. Yeah.
the letter is A.
Yeah, it's an airplane. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
And
how is the
Lisa-
Had turned it off.
yeah?
Has turned it off.
Okay. So Lisa said that what verb tense are we using? In the direct speech we have is present. So how would
They have turned off.
yeah. And who have to turn off their electronic devices? So we have
The passenger.
you, she says you, but when I report it, I have to say we, because I'm one of the passengers. Otherwise, I wouldn't have heard Lisa. So that we had to turn off, etc. So we, because we are the passengers, and she told us that we have to turn on our cell phones or electronic devices. And had, because we are using, we are reporting something said in the present simple. To report it, we use the past simple. All right. Then we have the second one. Pete told the man, you have to check out by 11 a.m. Again, present. So how do we report the present?
An H, hotel. A hotel. Pete told he
He had.
Yeah, that he had. Why? Because we are talking about a different people. It's not us. I'm not involved in the situation, so it's not us. And he was talking about another man. He was talking to another man, sorry. So Peter told the man that he had to check blah, blah, blah.
out by.
Check out. Yeah, that's the idea. So what do you need to notice here is who is talking, who is that person talking to, and what is the verb tense that we are supposed to be using. right? So that's why I told you this, in my opinion, is the most difficult content that we studied. Okay, Roger said to the woman, "I'll help you carry your bags to your room." So this is future simple. Will, how do we report?
Would and would.
Okay.
Roger said the woman that he would
Yeah.
help her to carry her bags.
Yeah, that he would help her, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so how do we do it? We change will for would. That's the idea. Nati, tell us.
Yes. In the first sentence,
Mhm.
because we they had to tour.
All right, yeah. It could be so possible, but I imagine that if I know that Lisa said something in an airplane, it's because I was there. Because an airplane is a very closed space. So
Yeah.
I'm imagining that the person who is talking is also a passenger. No? Does it make sense? Yeah.
And the instruction says, you think, where is the space and you are on the airplane is you listen in the airplane.
Yeah.
In the hotel, you listen at the hotel.
Yeah, there you go. But it's more related to the idea that if you know what someone said in an airplane, it's because you were in that airplane. Yeah. And also in the second one, you know that you have to use he because we're talking about the man. Yeah. And in the third one, you know because he said something to the woman. Yeah. But if you want to use they, I wouldn't be too worried. All right. What it is important is that you use the correct reported speech, the correct verb tenses. It is also about perspective. Yeah. Yeah. Any other idea, comment? Yeah. So this is something that we need to practice for a little longer because it's confusing, I'm telling you. This is not an easy task. So let's complete 2 or 3 more. We have, the woman said to Paul, I can fasten my seat belt.
Mhm. The woman said to Paul, she couldn't fasten her seatbelt.
Okay, so we have can. How do we report can? With could.
Couldn't.
Yeah. So the woman said to Paul.
She said.
Yeah, she said, let's go with she said. I like it. Can you repeat, Guillermo, please?
She said she couldn't
She said
fasten
to Paul,
her seatbelt.
Yeah. Very good. So she couldn't fasten her seatbelt. That's important. All right. So you also need to change my for her because now you're talking about her, not you.
Yes.
So she said, thank you very much, Guillermo. She said, oh, sorry, double said. She said to Paul she couldn't fasten her seatbelt. Very good. So can becomes could in the past. Then we have Sarah told her boyfriend, and we have the flight attendants are serving drinks and snacks. So we're talking about Sarah. Sarah told him, to make it brief. How do we do this? We have the present continuous, don't we? Are serving. So
It's not they, it's the flight attendants.
Yeah. But
That
how-
they,
Yeah. Sorry.
I don't know if it's possible change the flight attendants
We're serving,
because it's very specific. The flight attendants are serving drinks and snacks.
we're serving.
There we go. The flight attendants, of course, need to stay because they are the one who gave the message. So Sarah told him that, that the flight attendants were serving,
We're serving.
blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So how do we report present continuous with the past continuous? So the flight attendants are serving, the flight attendants were serving. That's the idea. And now let's try with the last one. Dan told the hotel clerk, I've stayed here many times. So we have present perfect. How do we report present perfect?
Past perfect.
There you go. So Dan told the hotel clerk, let's say him. So it's told him that he had
Had
stayed
to state.
here, blah, blah, blah. Right? So we
There
have
or here.
Ah, there you go. That's a very good observation. So when Dan said that, he was in the hotel. Maybe when we report this, we're not in the hotel. So that is a very good observation. Thank you very much. There. So that told him that he had stayed there in that hotel many times. Very good. That also changes. All right, so what's the idea is that you can remember that something is said in the direct speech with some verb tenses and you need to report them with some other verb tenses. And that is something that you need to learn from memory, but it is a process. Did anybody have a comment or a
Can you
question?
resolve the 7, Valeria, please?
Yeah, why not? The pilot announced we will arrive 20 minutes earlier. So we have will. How do we report will?
Would.
Would. There you go. So the pilot said, oops, now I'm not writing. That we would arrive, blah, blah, blah. Why are we using we again? Because, yeah, if I know what the pilot announced, is because I was there. So when I reported, I use will. We because I was a part of that group.
And with want, oh, please, resolve the 8th.
Last one. Pam
Yes.
told the man, I'm sorry, but your mom won't be ready until 3. So how do we report won't?
Want is negative futures, I don't know.
Wouldn't. There you go. So Pam told him that
Wouldn't.
That what comes after that?
That
She was sorry.
she was sorry.
Yeah, but to be sorry is not something important. What is the main message? That she
won't be ready.
The room.
Wouldn't be ready. There you go. What's important? That
Until
she
3 o'clock.
Yep. You could also say Pam told him that she was sorry, but she wouldn't be ready. Yeah,
But it's not she wouldn't be ready, it's the room.
The room wouldn't be
The
ready.
room.
Ah, there you go.
That the room.
The room wouldn't be ready. All right. So yeah, this is important. We are not talking about a person or anything else. We're talking about a place. Your room won't be ready. So probably we're in a hotel. Yep.
How is about I'm sorry.
Sorry?
And what can we make with I am sorry? How is possible to
So
change?
that she was sorry,
Yep.
but the room wouldn't be ready. That's right?
Yep. But the room wouldn't be ready until 3 that day. Yep. We usually do not report those kind of excuses because they are not the important information in the sentence. You usually report the important information, which is this one. But if you want to report it, of course you can include it, but you have to use the same verb tense, the opposite verb tense. So if you are using in the present, I'm sorry, you reported in the past, I was sorry. Yeah, that's the idea. All right, difficult? Yes, it is. It is very difficult. And we still, sorry?
The last question, please, Valeria, about sentence 7 sentence.
Okay.
If I was not in that flight and only I heard that pilot announced that we will arrive 20 minutes early, it's possible to say the pilot said that they would arrive.
There you go.
It is confused for me. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, it is possible. If there is any situation in which you heard something that was said on a plane, but you weren't there, you would say they. It is possible. I imagine that maybe you are watching a film and the pilot says, we will arrive 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. Someone
It
doesn't
is-
hear and you report it to another person. You're not in the plane because you're watching a movie. It is possible, but it's weird.
Maybe she works in tower control.
Oh yeah, you work in that area of the airport, the tower control, and then you're listening to what pilots are talking about. Yeah, it is also possible. It depends on where you are, the context, and everything else. As I told you before, it's a matter also of perspectives. But when resolving this kind of exercises, we always go for the most obvious answer. If you have to start thinking, well, what if I'm not in the place? What if I were in the tower of control? Yeah, that's too much thinking. Don't overthink, okay? Go for the most obvious thing because I don't care really if you were on the plane or you weren't on the plane. What I care is that you can use the rule for the verb tenses correctly. Okay, so please, oh please, don't overthink about this kind of
It's
thing.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not just saying about you, Ludmila, I'm just telling this to everybody because when we are solving this kind of exercises, we tend to overthink. And not only with this kind of details, was I on the plane or not? It's with many things we try to overthink. Don't overthink, go for the most obvious things and you'll be fine, believe me. All right, now we have only 6 minutes left and we have still one unit to review. Now I have a question for you just because I got some messages on my WhatsApp. And yeah, there are some people who were taken by surprise. Like, what do you mean there's an exam? Yeah, there's an exam. But since this is our first exam, and since we had 2 classes where we couldn't work together, and some of you didn't even attend the asynchronous classes, and also we took the time to practice also verb tenses, which took us some time away from working on these units. I just for this time, because I have everything planned out, so just for this time, I could put off the exam until Saturday, so we can take Thursday to practice. But for that matter, of course, I need to ask everybody if you agree or if you prefer to take it on Thursday, and then we continue working on the next unit on Saturday. So it depends on you. Let me ask you in a poll, when do you prefer to take the exam? Let me write it because I wasn't ready for this. Never is not an option, so don't say never. We have on Thursday, the first option, be thinking about it. And we have on Saturday, the second option. So it depends on you. All right, let me launch it. I hope I didn't make any mistake. Yeah, choice 3 and 4 are not choices. All right, so on Thursday or Saturday. I'll be waiting for your answers. Okay, so we still need more votes. Please make sure to vote. Alrighty, there you go. That's what I was thinking about it. Okay, let me end it. I think it's already done. And I'm sharing the results. Yeah, so let's do this. On Thursday, we are going to finish up the review. I'm going to have you practice. I'm going to give you a worksheet on Thursday. And also we are going to finish Unit 3. If we take the exam on Saturday, then we are going to finish up Unit 3 and we are going to cover up something that we didn't study so far from that unit. Let me go there, which is this one, Lesson 3. So we start on Thursday with Lesson 3, and then we make a review of the whole unit, and then you're all settled for Saturday. All right, so that's the deal. We put off the exam, but we cover one extra lesson. And yeah, the exam is going to be on Neo. It's going to be available there. It's always the same rules for me. I make it available very early in the morning at 8, and you can complete it until midnight. You have the whole day to complete the exam. How long you take is up to you. What time are you going to take the exam? Up to you. All right, so we don't meet on Zoom because I expect you to complete the exam, and you have the whole day to complete it. So take the time, study, review, ask me questions. I'm going to be on WhatsApp. You have me to answer the test, but it's going to be available the whole day, so you can take the time to practice. There is no limit on time that you can spend. For example, you can start in the morning and finish in the afternoon. It's okay, all right, but only on Saturday. All right, so yeah. Let's finish up here. If you have extra questions, as always, stay with me. And if you don't, you may leave. I thank you very much for coming, and I'll be seeing you on Thursday with more reviewing.
Thank you.